Dear love, I've been thinking about you a lot lately, and I've come to one simple conclusion. I can't stand you. For a couple of reasons, but they are as follows. I can't stand you because every time you come around, my soul becomes Jericho. And I'm completely crumbled at the sound of your voice. This concrete constitution I've worked so hard to build is so easily folded like origami in the hands of your beauty, and it's frustrating. I pride myself on being this pillar of power, so strong and tall. Tall. But yet so easily I fall. And I am morphed into putty at the sight of your smile. Your laugh is intoxicating. Every word is like a symphonic sentence or this melodic heroin or cocaine that hooks my brain and reels me in. I want you to be my beginning and end, the last thing I see at night and the first thing I see in morning. You are light. And despite how hard I run like the desert sun, I cannot escape your shine. My feet simply sink deeper in the sand, and I can't stand you. Because I am completely helpless in your hands. And you know what's so amazing to me? It's not just your beauty, which is amazing to me. But it's the fact that when I dive into the deepest depths of your eyes, I find that I am most free. And I ain't never been one to be ruled, but I find myself gladly and willing to be your prisoner. And even if you want to tell me about your day for all eternity, I will gladly be your listener. Truth is, I could talk about you forever and ever and ever again. But for the sake of TED Talk and time, I have to bring this piece to an end. So, and I have to snap back to reality. Because the reality is, despite how I feel, and how deeply I admire, I am on the outside of the window looking in because this diamond-encrusted cluster of ruby that you call heart belongs to him. How y'all doing? My name is Reese the Poet. I appreciate y'all having me. So, I feel like a lot of us need some light sometimes because our world can be so dark. Yeah. And we look at what's going on in society and we ask the questions like, where are we going? And more importantly, how did we get here? Which leads me to my next piece. The title of this piece is Red. She said all she sees is red. Red dress, red shoes, red hair, red everywhere, as if it was her favorite color. The way it stands out above the others, red flushed cheeks in the back of the classroom, thinking about all the sing-alongs and the happy songs being sung. You can look around and see all of her peers, fellow young minds being cultivated, elevated, and educated and filled with fun. You can see all the joy, and you can hear the laughter in the room. They kicking back, joking, knowing the recess is coming soon. And it's all good. And then it was all bad. Because just like that, in a split second, she is torn from dream to nightmare. And she is thrust into the harsh reality when the excitement was broken. Because the door swung open when it shouldn't. There was a scream at the front of the class, and now, instead of nursery rhymes, the only thing on her mind is bullets. Red dress, red shoes, red hair. Instead of an afternoon of tag and foursquare, these red flushed cheeks are now lying in the back of the classroom on the floor squares, looking at her best friend that isn't moving anymore. Mirror crashes from wall. She looks and sees the reflections of her friends' bodies as they fall, and then she sees herself. And with terror in her eyes and to her surprise, all she sees is red. Red dress, red shoes, red hair. Unfortunately, her dress and shoes were white when she got there. And her hair is naturally blonde, but now it's been dyed with the essence of her friend that died. Red tears run down this red face like the red rivers filling the class. Emotions overwhelm so blue, and then suddenly a dark figure looms and says, "Don't cry, because you'll be joining her soon." And just like that, with a red and yellow flash, all she saw was black. Now, judging by your silence, I'd imagine some of us in this room are feeling a little uncomfortable in our seats. You might feel a little disgusted and sick to your stomach. And you're wondering, how could someone be so heartless? But the worst part is, these things are simply a direct reflection of our darkness. See, this society is made of people. And so what we see is who we are. This is the world that we built. This is the culture that we cultivated. This is the culmination of the evils we embrace on a daily basis. This is the cracks in the door. This is the sins we ignore. This is the turning the blind eye to little foxes, and then we're shocked when the vineyard is destroyed. This is the saying we want peace, but all we seem to turn and engage and embrace and entertain is violence. This is saying we want love, but all we seem to love is hate. This is saying that we want unity, but it seems division is the only answer that we speak. This is the generation that says truth is what I choose it to be, and if you disagree, you no longer deserve to breathe. This is the nature of going on social media, and we are so upset at these violent acts, and we call them senseless, and then we point our fingers at all of the people that commit them, and we call them demons, but with the same breath and the same fingers, we click, celebrate, uplift, and worship heathens. We turn to these dirty politicians to clean it when they are part of the problem. And I don't know if you know this, but there is no constitutional amendment that can erase corruption or fix the heart of a fool. And there is no legislation to legislate away evil, because evil does not follow the rules. This is us. And we can continue to point our fingers at all the different broken systems. But the truth is, they are symptoms of a much greater sickness. You see, we are suffering from heart disease, and it's a terminal illness. And I can't tell you what to believe. You can choose to listen to the news, and they'll tell you the answer is in the hands of their latest politicians, or you can turn to something greater than yourself, into the church that says that the answer is in the hands of the great physician. Either way, I would tell you that what we're doing now isn't working. But we can keep doing it. Over and over and over the same, expecting a different result, which is the definition of insane. And we can see where it takes us. As far as I'm concerned, personally, I believe the only way to fix anything is to get back to the one that made us. But even that statement in itself is controversial and cancel-worthy, which I find ironic. We can talk about sex, drugs, and violence and everything under the sun, but I mentioned faith, it's a problem, and that's a different conversation. So I leave you with this simple truth. Regardless of where you stand, the reality is that nothing in this world will change until we do. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I will leave you with one last piece. It's short and sweet, but it's special. My grandfather's a big man, strong, tall, full of power. He's not like one of your stereotypical grandfathers that's like bent over, "Hey, Sonny, let me tell you something." No, he's a king, and he reigns in his domain. He even has a throne. It's a lazy boy, but that's not the point. But it is stretched perfectly to fit him, and he walks over and he sits and he rules. One thing I noticed when I came to live with them when I was about 8. Now, this is something me and my grandmother debate, but that's just what we're going to say. Okay? He had a fascination with the rain. Whenever it would rain, he would get up out of his chair. He'd walk over to the closest window or door. He'd open it. He'd look there and he'd stand. And he'd go, And I would say, bruh. So one day I asked him, I say, Pops, you like the rain, don't you? Why you like the rain? He said, yeah, I like the rain. I said, why you like the rain? That's what I just asked you. We just had this conversation. Okay, you don't want to know why I like the rain? I just asked you that. That's what I'm saying. Because the rain is good for my grass. I was hoping for something a bit more philosophical. But this continued. This became our tradition. I'd be sitting at the table just outside of the kitchen. It would begin to rain. He'd get up. He'd walk over. Like the rain, Pops, don't you? Yeah. Why you like the rain? Rain's good for my grass. All right. We'll go back to what I was doing now. One day recently, I was sitting at the table just outside the kitchen, and it began to rain. The little boy inside of me rised up, of course, in anticipation and, a little bit anxiety. I kind of looked over there at the chair, and for the first time, no one was there. And instead of having our normal exchange, I was greeted with silence. And the once rhythmic rain that I used to get excited for now sounded like lead hitting the walls. And just like this, the silence echoed through the hall. And instead of seeing him stand at that window, I am reminded of standing at his bedside as the last breath left his body. In coincidental fashion, it rained that day. It was as if when his spirit hit the clouds, suddenly every rain he had ever watched came crashing down at once. Like you lost the hero in the story. But I guess that's what you did. But then I flashed back to that table, and I remember you ever notice sometimes in our darkest moments we have the greatest revelations? It was in that moment that I sat there, I realized I never thought about what lesson that those words meant, what lesson those words taught. Those words continued to echo in my heart, and they bounced all over the room, and I rose up and realized what he was saying all this time. Reese, son, the rain is good for the grass. Huh? The rain is good for the grass. Huh? Son, there will be days in your life that won't be pretty. There will be days that will be uncomfortable. They will not have rainbows. They will not have sunshines. They will only be rain. But what you have to realize, and I don't know what you're going through or what you're dealing with, but I want you to take this in. What you have to realize is that you have to learn to bob your head to the beat of the thunder. You have to learn to dance to the rhythmic pattern. And when you hear that lightning crack, you learn to crack jokes, because at the end of the day, when the storm passes, it is good for your growth. And those words came to me when I needed them the most. So I don't know what challenges or obstacles that you face. But I would tell you, endure, because beauty awaits. So continue to fight. Keep your head high and your heart strong, because this too shall pass. And always remember, the rain is good for the grass. Thank you.